Need another gear, you know, from whatever they played yesterday. As Fresh said, Secret have been sat top of the table for a reason. Their sieges looked fantastic. They've been so solid. They've been phenomenal. And I can't see that changing. And so I don't think it's really, for me, about who's on the other side. I think it could be Falcons, it could be VP, it could be Matchco. It doesn't really matter. It's about Secret, and they're just really good at the minute.
I do love how in the pre-game chat, Moti said, Garen, if I kill you, I say Demacia in chat. I link back to League of Legends, to those who don't know, because indeed that's where his name seems to appear to come from. But all that really matters to him in this server is that he can put up the numbers they need. We've seen Garen have some brilliant games throughout the stage so far. Heck, we've seen some of those players across all of WYLDE really putting in a bit of a show yesterday. I'm hoping it's enough to bring down Secret, but it is a pretty big opponent to get through. Is it a test too far? We're going to find out once we get ourselves into the map in just a moment's time. Border awaits for our second game of the day. As a reminder, there are still 3 more to come, so much more to look forward to today, which means plenty more hours for me sweating to death in my room. What do you do during the breaks, by the way, Tim? So I tend to fling my window wide open and go and stand in front of the aircon in my bedroom and just try and cool down as quickly as I can.
You see, I don't have air conditioning like you, Des.
You don't need it up there, mate, apparently. It's cold enough with the rain and lack of electric.
We've got nature's air conditioning.
We used to, until about 2 years ago. No, it's horrible.
Weather. No, I tend to, so it does get really hot in my room, to be fair. Even though it's cold outside today, like it is probably 25, 30 in here easily. I open my window in my office, but then I also, if I open my door, I can open a window at the other end of the house, and I get a really nice like wind tunnel effect going on. So that does help to bring the temperature down. So that's me in the breaks. It's just kind of sat in between the 2 windows, cooling off.
All right, well, let's see if this game starts to heat up then, Tim. Here we go. WYLDE start out on the attacking side, which you generally quite favour them, to be fair. Going on to map like Border, you'll see attackers tend to come out on top. And it's Boomsy who's in pretty quick here on the Nook as well, hoping to catch someone off guard upstairs. And will he find a victim? May well do here. They knew that he was inside, I'm pretty sure, but Adrian completely caught off guard. Savage gets the trade back, though. So the X Factor that is that Nook now gone.
Not the end of the world for Booms there. He's gone in and got his job done. He's got himself an opening kill, but problems are starting to mount up, and this shows what I was talking about with Secret when I came in and why they are so difficult to beat for WYLDE or anybody else. Yes, Boomsy gets in, gets a kill, gets the surprise. What does Secret do? They react fantastically well and they get the down. They're now 3 versus 2 effectively. Garen probably will be collected here. They know they need to be cautious, but they will get him back on his feet. So we go back to 3 versus 3. But yeah, Secret just respond really well. But look at that, saying it. WYLDE are doing it. I was critical of WYLDE's trade game. I said, you know, they needed to improve the way that they were impacting on each other's deaths on the first couple of play days that we saw them. They mentioned the entry kills on the analyst desk before coming in here. I'll mention the trades as well. They've done really well to keep themselves in this in terms of manpower. 3 versus 2. This could be the first round for them.
It could be. It's a solid start for them, given it started out a little bit awfully, to be fair. Okay, trade admittedly, but then Sneak going down just after. Not too great for them. Definitely some work for Doom and Savage to do. Ace there's control, of course, in the hands of WYLDE at this point of the round, as you hope it's a beat. Still got 1 more player to deal with. I like taking the presence there to get back on drone, but of course there's Garen, Tim. Of course it's Garen. 2 kills to start things off, and Juma's got to hold it down against 3. WYLDE here with 60 seconds to play. I don't think they let this one slip.
No, Doom's got about 30 health here. It's a real big ask to try and get him to lock this one down. He's just going to wait for that push coming through office. He knows that they're there. The smoke canister gives it away, but it's not really going to matter because they've got weight of numbers here. 3v1, 1 working towards holding that angle from Metal. I think they just want to get inside of Archives here and think about getting that diffuser down, but there seems to be a little bit of a rotation. Doom's predicted it. He gets one and creates himself a little bit of a safe space here, Des. He just pulls away at the wrong moment. WYLDE know where he is now, and surely a matter of time. Mats cuts him down through the soft wall, and WYLDE take the first round.
Missed the golden chance there, surely to say only a mats of time, Tim. Come on. That one was like right before, yeah.
Sorry.
I'll forgive you, it's the heat.
I can't sanction that one, Des.
Why not? It's the kind of joke you make, is it not?
It is, to be fair. It is.
Exactly. I know you do well at this point, my man. But no, good round. Again, for me, it collapsed a little bit after the second death came through. The first one, cool, you get in there, you get traded. Okay, not the end of the world. You've gained the information on where Savage is. For Sneak to then die on East Main, I was a bit like, oh, we're trying to do too many things here at once, boys. We've got an Archives push going on. We've got a slight office take happening about 5 seconds later. That all crumbled down as well. And I thought from that point, honestly, things were really going to start falling apart. But this kind of aggression, I think, dealing with the craziness coming out of Secret and trying to jump out windows to get aggressive onto the players of Wild, really smart. And what I really think Secret should have done a little bit, I know it's a map like Border, just take a step back here, peel back a layer of the onion, pull back towards site. I'm going to go fully on the way in, but let's not throw ourselves out the window when we're already up into a 4 versus 3. Just play for trades at that point. You haven't got to take the risk of jump outs there. Maybe a little bit too much confidence coming out on round 1, and Wild capitalise on it beautifully.
See if they can continue to capitalise then. Like you say, first round goes very much in their favour. Secret have to try and hold on a little bit better than that. I don't think they're going to get away with walking a knock into sight again, but Wild are not going to try that. I like to see that, not doubling down, not just throwing the same thing. They've switched it up. Instead, they're going to be working their way in, probably behind that Deimos again, but looking for a more standard clearance of that top floor. Get control, get Mats in there with the book, maybe a few Roteros, get that floor ripped up and put some pressure down onto site.
Sure. Secret are the ones that I'm keen to see how they play out this round a little bit differently. The owners, like you look back on Bank, for example, it was all about the attack and how well they were playing. A map like Border, I think it really comes down to the efficacy of the defenders. You're the ones that have got to show something a bit different because by default, attackers are going to win. I don't want to say the majority of the time, but I'd say it's like you'd often expect to see a 3-3 split coming out on this map. It is our most attacker-sided map in the pool for very good reason. There's it's a relatively small map when you look at it and dice it up. There's a lot of external-facing walls that look at least very, very close towards sites, for example. There's not a lot of opportunity for defenders to be able to waste time inside the map itself. You've got to do something a little bit crazy, like getting aggressive outside the map. But even here, like, they've stepped back a little bit further. They have kind of acknowledged, okay, maybe we were a bit too aggressive in round 1, and now it's given a bit of space towards Wild to get the entry and start things cooking.
Adrian's put himself in a bit of a bad spot there. He can have a look around and see roughly where that Deimos is, and moving into the doorway gives him a shot through the soft wall, and it was beautifully taken by Sneak. So the positivity on entry continues for Wild here, and they get the second round in a row with the advantage to kick things off. Time might be a factor for them. Mobley starts to take a little bit of damage, tries to get himself away. Will do successfully, but down to about 25-30 HP and tracked as well. The pressure feels palpable.
He could pull back in towards site really here quite easily, but he wants to play his life a little bit and waste time because we're down to that last 60 or so. Again, if you dip back in towards site too early on here, you're giving everything over to the attackers. You're going to find yourself falling away from this one. But you are right, so he's getting pressure from 3 different sides here and surely has to go down at some point. Evan gets his man, but it was bait all along. Savage is there for the trade.
Really nice Nitro there, just coming up and getting the kill vertically. 35 seconds left to go, and Wild need to start establishing a presence on site and taking the space that they're going to need to put the diffuser down. But again, that trade game, keep watching that as the game goes on. Sneak is there to make an effect on the death they've taken. 3 versus 2, 20 seconds left to go. Mats with diffuser in hand, but do they have the space to secure a plant? He's starting to move in, but he's not yet inside.
So I'm just not quite sure what they were looking for at the back of this one. They're trying to go, he's pulled away there at the perfect moment to try and get the plant down into a 1 versus 1. Sneak with it all to do. Savage, of course, will be looking around to try and close this one out, going down for a plant in the exact same spot where the diffuser fell. In comes his man. It's going to be a 1 apiece.
Yeah, just leaving themselves a little bit too much to do. Time was a factor. We said that about the minute mark, and Wild just couldn't get the space they needed inside. I think, you know, the plays that we saw from players like Mowgli up on top floor, just playing that life, you know, choosing to take that extra 20-30 seconds, bait them into a bad position so that Savage can hit the Nitro. It just did enough in the end to grind Wild down, but it was another good attacking round from them. They went in positively, they found kills, they found trades. I thought they might have a real opportunity to put the diffuser down. They just never got really confident control of that top floor.
I was a little bit nervous of Secret in the round overall, to be honest, in that they're still playing very aggressive. Like Noah's swing at top metal, I was a bit like, was that necessary? Like, do we need to swing here? You've just got to kill onto the guy on metal. You know, you've got that pressure somewhat alleviated. It's a 3 versus 3. Swings and makes it a 2v3. They've ultimately won on the back of the clock there, but what I will give to them is everything they were doing, like including Mowgli's madness inside of Office, was all about wasting time. It was all about wasting time that brought us down to those final couple of seconds, as you saw, where it was enough for Savage to get in and stop the diffuser going down overall. And this is what sometimes you can look at a round and think, oh, well, you've wasted maybe 2 or 3 seconds there. Is it worth it? You're doing that 5 times throughout a round. You're wasting yourself a good 15 seconds or so. So I don't blame them at all for trying to be at least aggressive and keep Wild at base. Slowing them down that little bit could be the difference between winning a round and losing it. In that last round, it got them the win.
WYLDE, I'd like to see this round them maybe just get into the building a little bit more confidently, a little bit quicker, so that they have the time to take that top floor control. But they're going to need again because they're attacking into bathroom and tellers. So they need to make sure this time, learn the lessons of last round and don't leave them with that position above. That said, Evan is getting straight onto the window here, clearing out utility as the Blackbeard with the glass upside down. There could be a vending machine plant on the cards.
Stay clear of the blast!
I think maybe they're trying to think about it, but potentially a little bit preemptive.
This is the position they need to deal with.
I mean, there's a C4 in back pocket. Even if he gets slightly forced back from here, he's still in trouble. And Mowgli's got the vertical control. This is what they need first, really, if they want to force players away from bathroom. Otherwise, this feels a little bit, ooh, okay. I was going to say a waste of a C4, but Boomsy doesn't move. He just stays static and gets taken down by Adrian. Glass gone. The main impact you wanted through those smokes now also removed away. And so the question marks now start standing. What next, WYLDE? I imagine it's to be Evan trying to move his way through, but no! Just as he steps in to get that vertical angle, he gets himself shut out of this one. Noah should not be losing out on that second kill, though. Garen gets a nice shot on, looks for another man here, must know that he's being challenged, but backs away just in the nick of time. It's a 2 versus 3 for WYLDE, making a 1 versus 3. Much more composed coming out from Secret.
Yeah, definitely. The opening kill onto the glass really shook things up. Evan had already moved away on the Blackbeard and did, adapt well to the position the Warden was in to get that kill, but ultimately it just hasn't been enough for WYLDE. 2 versus 1 now. Secret can hold this, any which way they like, really. They know that Sneak is going to have to move on into start. I like the little bit play there, just a little bit of a soft breach from above whilst he drops down, covers the sound, but also maybe makes them think that he's up there above and not challenging horizontally. But that moment of surprise has been lost, as has his life. Mowgli manages to find that kill, and Secret go 2-1.
Yeah, most in the round, just a bit more composed, I think, for Secret overall there. Yeah. Better played. Noah really getting into position that he shouldn't have been inside of as well. Like, clearly he slipped the net there and has managed to work his way through the drone net established by the attackers of WYLDE, and they paid the price for it. Either way, into that second quarter we go, which means another ban comes on through. I imagine it'll be a third shield that comes out of Secret here. Already seen, of course, the Blitz and the Monty. No, it's going to be the Deimos coming out instead. And interestingly, Tim, smoke on the other side.
Let's see how that one pans out then. Let me see.
What was spicy is they banned away yesterday against Wolves. I was just looking at the stats from yesterday, actually, and was there 2 bans they brought away? It was the Azami and the smoke they banned away. So although they're taking it until the 4th round here, they've opted to ban it away at this point. And whether or not that's more of a lean towards trying to target powerful players on the smoke, or more they're just worried about the time stall factor and just wanting that to not be a factor for them. Interesting, they banned it away both days so far on this map.
Obviously something that the... I don't want to say that they don't like playing against, everybody's familiar with playing against smoke, but as we know how powerful smoke is on the denial, just much more so than similar example earlier tonight, the Tachanka, for example, for that sort of area denial. Smoke is much more consistent and effective, so I get it. It maybe just helps them get a little bit more space inside of sight. Next 3 rounds, of course, are going to be particularly important. If WYLDE aren't getting in and getting established and starting to, at least look in a position to get plants down, then we start asking questions about that smoke ban and saying, how effective has it really been? By contrast, if they do get in there and they put in that diffuser down and it's creating that space, then yeah, you look at it as a masterstroke.
All right, see how WYLDE shape appearing. Can they get us back to 2 apiece, or does it go 3-1 towards Secret? I think many, knowing how Secret have played throughout the stage so far, probably backed them to come away the stronger of the 2 teams in this game. I believe Fresh's prediction was 7-1. Not quite sure so much see 5 rounds on the bounce being won, but crazier things have happened. And that's certainly one of those things, Tim. Wow! Boozy can't get a break here for the 2nd round in a row. C4'd off last one and jumped out on here, exposing himself to the Archives window and pays the price.
Yeah, this is the problem that WYLDE have got now. They've come out with a good first round, but Secret are really starting to find themselves in the round and, in the match. And that's when you start to see these players come out where they're jumping out and taking those early engagements. Noah is going to be taken down, so again, it was slightly late, but a good trade coming in from Wild, keeping those numbers level and keeping themselves in the round. If this Nitro goes out, it gets a kill. I think he's just waiting for his moment. Sees it there, he surely finds its man. No, just a little bit long. Garen manages to get Savage. It is a trade, though, and that leaves us 3 versus 3.
It's a shame. I really am desperate to know, and I need to remember to message Savage about this later. Did they watch back the game from Wild yesterday against Wolves and know that Boomsy stands there when he's droning up on the roof? Because if so, that's like a perfectly timed jump out that they just knew was going to be a thing rather than hoping for blindness on a jump out there and getting a little bit lucky. I need to go and ask him at some point because that would be really interesting to find out. Or maybe the Dets can ask afterwards. We'll see. Either way, 3 versus 3. At least Wild have kept themselves competitive throughout the round. Have kept it pretty even, all things said and done. Still a winnable round here with 60 seconds to play or so, though. But, Tim, as we often say, that time waits for no one. They've got to get a bit of a move on here and start getting their way through the map to clear out players like Mowgli. They're going to be a real nuisance here, dug in.
I love that kick jammer there, just coming in to prevent the track. Adrian manages to find Sneak. It doesn't actually save Mowgli, as he'll still be taken down. 2 versus 2, though. Evan taking damage, and Wild need to start taking some risks now. With 40 seconds left to go, they've got to get themselves inside, and Evan is seriously low health. This is not going to be easy. We've got Doom just dug in behind the bomb chassis, but this could be a problem for him. He's going to take the gamble. He's going to take the big push and have a look if he can get aggressive. He sees his man and takes him down. He blocks it back up with a keeper barricade, and now it is all for Mats to do.
I was going to say, like, surely Adrian is ready to assist there at range, so Mats couldn't easily push in against him. Has at least an idea where Adrian is, but I don't think there's enough time here. He's got to step in for a kill. Adrian steps out and gets his second of the round. And I do want to talk about Adrian for a second here, because he played a very, very critical role in defending Mowgli when he had that first jump in on the CC window. I don't think, or at least what it shows, Wild have sort of slipped upon a few times across these 3 rounds. They know where the main man is. They know how they want to pinch onto with maybe 3 players. What they don't always appreciate is the second player that might be giving cover to that guy and defending one of the angles. And whether it's a lack of experience, whether it's a lack of drones, I don't know. But we've seen across a couple of rounds now where players have just been blindsided and caught out by someone holding an off angle while protecting another player that all of Wild are so focused on. It's almost like they get a little bit single-minded focused on trying to take out one player and forget there are other teammates around that could be looking to support them, and they've lost 3 or 4 kills throughout this half so far in situations like that. We'd just really like to see them tighten it up a little bit and be more mindful of what other players are doing when they're trying to catch out an extended player, especially on a small map like Border. You're going to see that catching you out time and time again if you're not careful.
Yeah, it's having that bigger picture, isn't it? You know, being aware of that there's not just the challenge that you're involved in. There's, you know, multiple other angles, especially on a map like Border, as you say, you know, where basically every room overlooks every room practically. You can find an angle, you know, from somewhere to everywhere. But we see the clearance coming on through from Wild. It wasn't enough in the end. And it's also pushed them to pull the trigger on the tactical timeout. They've decided, you know, that they've seen enough of what Secret are bringing. As we said, that smoke ban, you're hoping it's going to give you an opportunity to get into sight a little bit more comfortably, prevent that denial, get yourself established, maybe have a plant opportunity. Didn't really happen for Wild in the last round, so they'll try again now. We need to see them take that top floor control. Twice they've attacked onto ground floor sites. They've not survived long enough. They've not had the man count to be able to continue with that top floor push, hold it, and go for a plant underneath at the same time. So that's the improvement that we need to see from Wild, really, if they're going to take this round from Secret, because Secret, they're just going to be mobile. They're going to play top floor, and as you push them back, they'll drop the hatches, and then they'll try and rotate and come back up the staircases to flank you and retake that top floor.
Again, attempted, like, yeah, it's a run out. It's a run out from June very early on, hoping to catch them out on their spawn coming down the south side. Again, maybe some track work they've done there, knowing they've come from here. Almost managed to catch someone out there, but I think just a little bit behind the time. I say that as knowing it's rid of Boomsy. I almost feel bad, like, half gone about it at this point, but Boomsy, I feel for him, but he has been caught out repeatedly here because a little bit further ahead of the rest of his team, droning in bad spots, not being mindful of C4s in the window. These are small things you've just got to show a little bit more caution around, but he's paying the price for it and constantly leaving his team in 4v5s.
Certainly being punished by Secret, who are taking every opportunity to put in front of them, and this time, you know, I've been complimentary of Wild's trade game so far. This time, they've not been able to back it up with a kill of their own, and it leaves Secret sitting pretty. A minute into the round, 5 versus 4, still holding on to key positions. They've got CCTV, they've got Armory, they've got Archives, they've got a lot of top floor control, and WYLDE need to chip away at that and make sure that they can't use that to prevent a plant in the late round.
Let's get some vertical work done from below here, trying to force these players back. And sure enough, a bit of pressure from the team comes together. And Mowgli is removed on that Solus, back into a 4 versus 4. The thing for Mowgli here, Tim, he's 1 and 5 so far in the game. A lot of his roles have been playing the, I'm going to overextend and play against 3 players here. My goal is to try and waste time. We've already seen that help his team win 1 round, as we saw Savage winning out that 1 versus 1 in the 2nd round. So I don't hate the way that he's playing. Of course, it's not having massive impact on the scoreboard, but it's still helping his team in terms of pressure.
Savage is just going to drop himself a little bit deeper. He was playing up on that wall, but finds himself instead behind the lockers there. He knows that he can hold West Breach from there, and that's where a lot of this pressure is stacking up from WYLDE. They've got a minute left to go, 4 versus 4, so the round is certainly winnable for them, but a couple of key positions they haven't dealt with. Top East is one of them. I was going to say that lockers was the other, but they do deal with that. Savage is taken out. Noah manages to find Sneak. 3 versus 3, still doable for WYLDE, but East Stairs could come back to bite them.
Just a bit nervous here that with no real coverage inside of Office, for example, as well. They might get themselves a little bit side-swiped. Doom has worked his way up towards that East Stairs, as you remark, could work his way over that top floor if so desired and play Dinar from above, or work his way back down and come across from that side of the map to help here. His 2 teammates very much dug in and waiting for this push to come on through. Mats gets 1. Good for Adrian to go down so early. But there we go. Noah again strikes. Gets a kill from inside of sight here. And now June can double back. Make it a 2 versus 2. And WYLDE's availability of space to play with here is quickly running away. June's worked his way across that top floor. Got the verticals back on side. And Garen, maybe one of those great players that we talk about, Tim. But Noah is that bit better in this round. 4 kills for himself. The Secret move up now 4-1.
Yep, the obvious problem in that round, of course, for WYLDE being Noah, is just sort of run over them and took every opportunity that he had. But Doom on East Stairs. East Stairs is one of the primary positions that you need to deal with when attacking anywhere on border, whether it's Armory Archives, whether it's one of the downstairs sites. You need to consider who has control over East Stairs. Allowing Doom to stay out there, you can't really do it. Sometimes the roamers, yes, you can leave them out in the cold. Doom then just says, okay, no problem. It's 2v2. I'm going to retake Armory and Archives. I'll just hold you from above. And he just wanders down, no problem, gets himself back into Armory and finds a kill from above. So it's 2v1 and then back foot again for WYLDE. So it's a tough lesson to learn, but it is one that they need to take on board. You have to control those key areas. You can't allow a player like Doom to sit out on East Stairs of border.
Against, it's a myriad of things. Again, not considering those second players, the amount of time that Mowgli is wasting and resource that he's sucking in. He's one of those players I think that you have to commit resource to. Though, like we spoke about Mowgli so much, and I've often said about him that I think back on Walls he was a bit untamed in a way. It was a fantastic entry, but often very far ahead of the rest of his team, often a bit too aggressive and cost them a few rounds in the process. On Secret, we have seen him be a much more controlled player, or at the very least that WYLDE side of him has been kind of put more, control, has been given more control and told where it can exist. And that is where when you've been tucking in 3 or 4 players on WYLDE to try and collapse into 1 player, and it's taking you half the round to do so. That's a lot of time to be whittled away down. So I like how he's playing here, where it's not particularly flashy, it's not letting in loads of kills. It's often being in difficult spots where you're being forced to go 1vx. I'm sure Mowgli loves being in those situations, but it means that WYLDE again are seeing that clock run down and they're coming under pressure.
Noah's going to take out Sneak. That makes it 5 in a row for him. 4 in the last round and 1 to continue his streak here. 6 and 4 overall. Certainly come online. I think it's important that we remember the sort of stakes of this one, the positions that we're in. You've got to remember Team Secret are absolutely flying in EML at the minute, and we've got WYLDE who have come from being an academy team and got themselves to T1. It's a great story. It is going to be a struggle of a match, more than likely, and there is certainly things they'll be able to take away and learn, but they are still in this one. They just need to try and get this round, I think. Go with the 2-4 split and move themselves onto defense. But Secret certainly not making it easy. They're punishing every little mistake, every little opening. Secret are there. We're going to see the flash come in. It is successful, but I don't think anybody is pushing behind it to take that fight and get that kill. So it allows Secret to maintain that position. But no, Garen does go in just after the utility. Gets the kill onto Noah. 4 versus 4. A minute 20 left to go.
Well, they know that this is the drop away here. The Savage has dropped himself down. Can, of course, hop back up if he so chooses and go on that flank once again. At least for now, darting around that hatch. They've got to be so careful, Tim, because we've seen them they've seen that drone net sort of fail them before, and they can pay the price if they're not too careful. June getting rid of Boomsy, who again continues to have a pretty torrid time in this game. But Matt's warming his way into this now, stepping himself forward up to 5 and 4, going positive. 3 versus 3.
Yeah, June doing a great job of keeping himself in the position there. He knows how effective he had the joy from East Stairs last time. He's going to continue to do this as long as they will let him. He's got to keep a barricade in pocket so he can put another one out for himself and burn another 20 or 30 seconds with them not knowing whether he's going to hit them on the flank or not. Wild kind of just trying to look the way down into sight here, but there's not any real movement towards getting an execute sorted. Doom is backed up beautifully by Mowgli as the push comes through, and then he manages to get the second. Evan eventually finds the trade, but it's 1 versus 2, and he has no option but to just drop down into the next level, into sight, and try and find something. Mowgli's there to cut him down, and that's going to be another successful round for Secret. 5-1.
All right. Now, this makes things very, very difficult on the other side of things for Wild to try and make this work on the defense. I think you just saw Secret, outside of a couple of crazy rounds, I think at the start where they were figuring themselves out and how they wanted to play the game out, less runouts and craziness and general risk-taking, I think, overall. Once they got more composed into that, it was very hard for Wild to stop them. A lot of it coming down to, as I said, those second or third players, when they were so focused on trying to deal with one. Like Noah was very largely unchallenged inside of CC for the entirety of that round, had absolute liberty to do whatever he pleased. And those are the small things that if you don't control those 2 corners of the map, or at least one of them looking in towards CC or in towards Office, you're going to have a bad time. Now we get the swap over. Secret on the attack has remarked, this could end up being a quick one. And dare I say to him, if it goes 7-1, then Jack is pretty much spot on. 2-0 in terms of predictions, but also the score lines.
Impressive if he gets 2 back-to-back scorelines. Certainly not an easy thing. But I would say, you know, talking about things that are not easy, getting entry kills against the Secret side is not proving easy for Wild. They got the opening 2. It was a great foundation for them coming into the game, but since then they haven't been able to lock one down. Adrian, Savage, and then a double from Noah have been the last 4 rounds of entry kills, and it just means that Wild are playing in that sort of 4v5, and Secret are then able to use the space that they've created with that entry kill and take advantage of it, which is something that Secret have done very, very well. Not, for example, Doom in the last couple of rounds not being forced out, and it's because Wild don't really have the manpower, and Secret know that, so they're just of course going to sit there until they're forced to move, and it's just been good play from them, good solid siege.
All right, Armory Archive's going to be our first fight of the half. Wild going to see what they can do to hold Secret at bay. Looking in towards their line again, digging in towards both Ephemeria and Melusi. Normally seeing quite interchangeably, you know, more for that area denial. Information that it gives when someone steps on forward does really, really help you out there as the defenders. I think having both may be a little bit much. Of course, time will tell. Big fear then, of course, on the other side, Tim, is looking in towards the Brava. And I'm sure Adrian is eyeing up some of those juicy, juicy gadgets, including the bulletproof cameras, and quite fancying them to turn over to his side.
Yeah, get those bulletproofs, get those banshees, you know, just really pick apart the defense with its utility first. You've, of course, got the Smot Mines, the FNATs. There's so much value there for the Brava. I'm surprised. We do see the occasional Brava ban, but we don't see too many of them, and it surprises me a little bit because there's so much value can be found from those clutch drones.
I agree. Like we've seen back at Reload, we saw a few teams ban away the Brava, but oftentimes I'd see it banned away, and then teams would, like, you know, not then run things like a Maestro or other gadget-heavy operators like the Melusi. And I was always like, it felt like a little bit of a waste at times. But where it has been banned away, and a couple of teams have then turned towards playing things like the Maestro, it's been really effective. Just very little shuts it down, which is absolutely fantastic. You're relying on Flores drones to do that, but coming up against Mutes, for example, can just make that almost impossible to get through. So, of course, hoping here that Adrian puts them to good use and they get some gadgetry away. Sneaku's down to just under half HP at this point. It's come under a little bit of pressure. So we've now got Mowgli established on East Stairs and his team starting to gather around him.
Yeah, just opening up that line of sight through into Office is going to make it a little bit more tricky for them to hold on. There goes the Brava drone straight in, grabs the Banshee, and that's going to give at least a point of ingress possibly for Secret here. Somewhere that they can use an avenue to get themselves inside, and the movement was going to be punished eventually. Mowgli finds his man. 5 versus 4, another entry for Secret. They are looking sharp today.
Yeah, this is the problem. They get picked off one at a time here, Wild, then the layers just dissolve entirely. And you get more and more encroaches, you get forced back into the site, you got more directions you're getting pushed from, that pressure builds up. It ain't a pretty time now. Doom's got a track coming on through. He's hoping for his man upstairs. I think they found they got the wrong one here. Oh my god, Noah's got the read onto Boomsy. He cannot get away with it today, and neither can Evan apparently. He's also finished off. And Garen's now just down the comms like, guys? Where are you? Everyone else is dead, mate. You're on your own. A 5 versus 1. He does get one as the exit, Tim, but that was dominant from Secret.
Yeah, I don't envy Garen's position there, being chased down by a Blackbeard in a 5 versus 1 is never going to be a pretty sight. Never going to be any other outcome realistically. So Garen will be taken out. Secret do manage to get themselves up to map point. Wild now need to get 5 rounds in a row without mistake if they're going to get themselves back into this one. Secret just require one more. And with the way that they've been playing tonight, I'm not too sure it'll be too long in coming.
All right, a brief interlude before we jump ourselves back into it. Some highlights from the last round as well to tickle your fancy. This is beautiful as well, but to be fair, Noah's been there a million times. Oh, there's an impact. That means someone's running out. And I love the presence of Mine was there to expect the second swing, and it was very spot on. Wild made the right idea there, I think. Maybe probably could have seen a swing come out sooner or come out first from Evan, and a step out into a second swing coming out from Boomsy. I don't know, but the timing was a little bit off. It gave Noah time to readjust, and he walked through with both kills there. Right idea, just not quite the right execution.
Yeah, it's a tough one really, because your instinct says like kind of, you know, swing at the same time there, so that, you know, Noah can't take both of you out. But the problem is the line of sight is very tight, and when Boomsy comes out of that door, there's every chance that the man behind him is going to pop a bullet straight through him rather than Noah. So it's a bit of a tough one. It'd have to be a very wide swing on that West Breach to get a line around the player going out. So yeah,
I'm reloading.
They were unfortunately punished by Noah, who was definitely switched on to the possibility of a second coming along. But we move into what could be our last round. We could have a few more to go. That will all depend on Wild as they continue on the defense. I think the best form of defense at the minute might be trying to prevent Secret getting inside of the building, but Doom's already there.
That's it, right? We spoke about this earlier on about Border, this being one of those maps where you have got to get aggressive outside the map, really. Don't give them freedom to get up to the building, to get inside the building, because by then it's probably already a little bit too late. But doing so blindly is what really stings you. Doom already looking in for his one here against Matt. Both taking about the same damage here and then forced to back away. Doesn't stop Doom's advance, so he keeps on marching his way forward. Matt's now really dug in, getting pressure from both sides, and it's Mowgli to get the entry in the round, take him down. Another 5v4 for Secret.
You feel for Mats in that situation. They were circling like sharks, one on the window, one on the long angle. Mowgli coming in aggressively. It was only going to end one way, and it did. Sneak does manage to get a late trade, though. 4 versus 4. Noah, however, is there for the quicker trade. Taking down Sneak. Make that 4 versus 2 as Savage finds his man, while just, again, getting caught out, as you said, Des, with those multiple angles, maybe straying across the doorway. Not really sure that they're going to be attacked from there, and the pressure just continues to mount.
To a real hard hold off here. Doesn't even matter if they can try, Tim. Secret, dominant performance. I think as many expected, and Fresh is now right. 2-0, fair play to him. Both pictures to go the way that they thought. Full distance in the first game, an almost perfect game from Secret here. Outside of that one round that Wild managed to snatch away. A bit of a cold return to reality as well for Wild, to be fair, Tim. Had a draw, had a win, and now back to a crushing loss.